Hey everybody, welcome back to the 80-Hour Developer. Thanks so much for joining me again. Today we're going to talk about setting up our first PHP code in the terminal. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the high-level projects that we're going to finish off with, and then we're going to talk about which Laracast videos are next in the prescription. So let's start off and just review what we've talked about so far and where we are. So you guys have heard a lot of my opinions thus far on what the right operating system is, what the right tools are, getting Laracasts. Then in the last episode, you guys installed a few more pieces of software as per Jeff's recommendation, which is awesome. So you guys have now all got iTerm in place, you've got Valet set up, you've got everything in place and ready to roll. What we haven't actually done yet is write any code. We wrote a very tiny little bit in the last episode, but we didn't even bother running it. So that's what we're going to do today. But before we get there, I know it feels like we're pretty deep in the weeds here, right? There's a lot of stuff that we've done to set up, and it's hard to see how any of the pieces fit together. So I want to talk about the two things that we're going to do at the end of this course and the skills that we're building toward. So the first one, and I've talked about this previously, is a ticketing app. And we're going to use this. It's going to be a stripped down version of Jira. You're going to be able to create tickets, which are basically to-do items, add descriptions to them, invite people to join you in working on them, right, and move them back and forth between different categories. So we're going to do that. That's primarily going to be a practice app. Look, in all honesty, any company is more likely to spend the $10 a month on Jira than to build their own ticketing app, right? And of course they should. But it's going to be a great opportunity for us to build something that we know people are using and to get a sense of how to build those things. The next thing that we're going to build is going to be much more valuable. It's going to be a coaching application. This is a derivation of things that I've built for a number of companies. As you know, if you work in companies, coaching is an incredibly important part of everybody's job, right? If you work and have any people under you, you need to be coaching them. You need to be helping them achieve their best. And so we're going to build an application that helps us do that. It's going to allow us to set different user levels. It's going to allow us to get people to set goals for themselves and allow us to record how much time they're spending toward that goal as compared to how much they said they were going to spend on that goal. It's going to allow us to track a lot of things there. We're even going to put some graphs and charts into it to make for a nice visual demonstration. It's incredibly useful. It's the kind of thing where you will be able to put it into place immediately in your own departments or in your own companies. You can sell it to clients. You can create a software as a service around it. You can add your own things to it. Do whatever you want with it. We're going to build it together, and I'm going to show you everything you need to know how to extend it and to make it incredibly useful in your specific area. Okay, so that's where we're going. Whenever it starts to feel bogged down, whenever it starts to feel a little too dry or technical, or how you're not quite sure what we're driving at, just try to keep these two projects in mind and then expand out and think about all of the other projects that you can build, all the other problems that you can solve once you have a good grasp of programming. Okay, so all that said, let's actually write a bit of code. So I'm going to go into PHP Storm and I'm going to open up my code directory. Okay, we've got our code, and the only thing in here right now is index.php. So this is going to grow, but you guys should have a very similar directory, either underscore code or code, and you're going to keep all of your files in here, right? So eventually you're going to have multiple directories in here for each project, but right now we just got one file in here. So where we left off last time was here. We had echo hello world, and then echo or hello world again. So to run this file, if we recall, we've got this in the directory. So while we're in this directory, we type php index, and just as a hint, if you hit tab while you're typing, it will auto-complete for you. I find that incredibly helpful. And look what happens. We echo out hello world, hello again world. In here, we have a space between but the program doesn't recognize that. So in order to actually get a space, we have to tell it very explicitly that we want a function that gives us the end of line, PHP EOL. And now, what we see is hello world, we get this new line, and then we get hello again world, okay? So what we've done here is we've written our first code, our standard traditional hello world. We've added a return or a carriage statement at the end of that line, and then echoed it again. If we were writing this in HTML, we would do BR instead, but because we're in the command line, if we were to do this, and we would just get that, because the command line is not rendering in HTML. So that's why we did this. Okay? So there's a couple things to remember here. Once again, I don't have to think about saving this at any point. As soon as I switch windows, it saves the file for me. And another command line function that's really helpful is Command K will clear out your screen and clear everything else out. So sometimes you'll see this happen where I do that, and somebody might hit Control L. If you hit Control L, you can still scroll up and see it. So Control L just kind of moves your scroll bar down. Okay, Command K actually clears everything out. Okay, so that is our tiny little bit of code. This is how you can write code and run it in your terminal. And with that, you have now got everything that you need from episode 1 and 2 of the PHP Practitioner course on Laracasts. So you're going to start at episode 3, and we're going to do everything in this course. This is an amazing course. They're all amazing courses. Jeff Way is incredible. I can't speak highly enough of him. I hope you've all bought your memberships by now, because this course is not free. So you have to have a membership in order to go through these videos. And I want you to go through all of them. Episodes 3 all the way through to the end, which I believe is 25. Okay? Now you'll see that some of these videos are quite long. And this brings me to an interesting point. The 80 hours in the 80-hour developer comes from the fact that I expect that you will spend at least 2 times as long as each video is in typing out the code in that video, following along with it, and understanding it. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but on average, I expect the runtime of the video when you watch it the first time, and then an extra 2 times that amount of time in order to go through it. So the first set of courses that I put together for my developers was about 25 hours of video, and I expected that it would take them another 55 hours in order to go through it, follow along with it, type it out, make it run, work through any errors, and really understand everything. And so that's where the 80 hours in the 80-hour developer comes from. I expect the same of you guys, that you should be able to go through this. And so this is 7.5 minutes. So you should aim to spend probably about 23 minutes on going through this. You should aim to spend probably about 40 minutes going through episode 4. So just these two is probably about an hour, even though it's only about 20 minutes of video. Okay? And this is going to do some incredible stuff for us. You're going to learn all about the building blocks of programming. Variables, PHP and HTML will show you how to do everything on a web page rather than in our terminal, because let's be honest, nobody runs programs from the terminal anymore. You're going to learn all about HTML, how to separate out the code that we write, the actual programming code, from the display. We're going to learn about arrays, and they're just an incredible way to store data. You're going to learn about booleans, which are true-false statements, conditionals, which is saying if then, and then just everything is in here. You're also going to learn a little bit about databases. Okay. More importantly, as we go deeper, you're going to learn about some of the things that cause websites to be hackable. You're going to learn how to avoid those common pitfalls and errors. Right? Sometimes, and I've seen this in professional sites or quote-unquote professional sites, that people forget about protecting their database and they leave their forms open so that a hacker could go in and delete their entire database just by submitting a fake email address. So you're going to learn about that, about how to stop that. You're going to learn a lot of stuff in here that's going to help you build more secure sites. And then at the end of this, you're going to learn how Laravel, which is the framework that we're going to work on for the rest of this series, takes care of a lot of that for you and really helps you focus on what you want to get done rather than a lot of the security or a lot of the lower level things that that have really already been taken care of for us. But in going through it and going through piece by piece and writing it yourself, you're going to have a really good appreciation and, more importantly, an understanding of how these components work. So this is a long series. I'm not just going to throw you in and say, hey, come back and we'll catch up when you're done all 25 episodes. I'm going to create some kind of check-in videos for us. We'll talk about some of the concepts that have been brought up. If you guys have questions, ask them in the comments section in YouTube. You can email me directly, or you can ask questions on Laracasts. Right? Especially after you sign up, you will find that it's just an incredible community, a lot of people there willing to help, and I, of course, will do everything I can to help you and make your life a little easier. So that is it. I look forward to having everybody go through this, and we will chat again very shortly. Thanks, everybody.